Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Yeah, we will start our today's discussion. If you have any doubts on previous class, you can ask while I am progressing with the presentation material. Any specific doubt?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, on the slide number 6, where you have described about the effect of radial clearance on the spool.
Ah,
Sir, there in the graph, it is shown that when YV is equal to 0, then XV is also 0.
ah.
But sir, from the diagram, like it is evident that when YV is 0, then also some like effective opening should be there.
Okay, I will explain. It's good doubt. I will explain. I am moving to the screen share mode. You are talking about the situation. YV,
Yes,
XV,
sir.
then even when YV is equal to 0, here it is XV equals 0. But what you are telling is when YV equals 0, there is a opening. Why we are not considering? That is your problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, here we are interpreting things effectively with respect to hydraulic flow. That is why XV is defined as the effective hydraulic port opening with respect to the final flow. Here, if you come to this total diagram here, you put this underlap here. The flow means not only the flow here, we want this flow to go into this forward chamber and push. That is the effective flow. Okay, because there are so many flows happening here. While there is underlap, there is the spool is here at the middle of this one. You know that there is underlap here as well as here. Similarly, underlap here and there. So what really happens is flow comes from the supply and go into this part. Similarly, flow will come here and go into this part. And because of this flow, yesterday I was talking about this bleeder resistance also. Suppose that we are having a pressure of 200 bar and PR is equal to 0 bar. PS is 200 bar and PR is 0 bar. Because of this division, underlap condition when exactly YV is equal to 0, the restriction here is equal to restriction here, is equal to restriction here and restriction here because we assume symmetricity in construction. Because of that, if you look on this diagram, the supply pressure PS will be half at this point, at the middle point, because the resistance here and resistance here are equal. So 200 bar will divide into, here there will be 100 bar pressure, here also there will be 100 bar pressure. That is on both the sides of the piston, that is in both forward chamber and return chamber, pressure will be 100 bar. Because of that, there is no pressure drop, and because of that, there is no motion for this piston and no volumetric displacement, and effectively there is no QVS and QVR. QVS is equal to 0, QVR is also 0. The flow due to this underlap, that will bleed out. This will go as bleeding flow, bleeder flow. It will not be useful with respect to the actuator. That is why we are noting here as when YV is equal to 0, effective hydraulic opening is still 0. But if you slightly displace it, what will happen is, as I told, this, if you push it further towards the right side, this opening will increase, this will decrease, and because of that, there will be a larger flow gain compared to the critically lapped condition. This is the critically lapped condition. There is an effective larger opening and flow gain will be there. That is interpreted in terms of the effective hydraulic opening. So this is not purely mechanical relationship. When you know that radial clearance is something orthogonal in direction with respect to the so-called displacement. So in that way, you should consider effective means, and also this, it is not going into the actuator cylinder at the null condition. They are going a balanced way. But the moment you displace it, what is the incremental? Then only the real flow start into the actuator chamber, and that gain, effective gain, will be larger compared to the otherwise critically lapped case. I hope I conveyed the information.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, like according to your answer, that when the actual displacement is 0, then the hydraulic opening is like symmetric for both the sides. That's
Okay.
why we do not consider it into the effective hydraulic opening.
Yeah.
So even if like if considering the radial clearance plus overlap case, in that case, even if I displace the spool to the right side, then also like openings, like the radial openings is symmetric on both the sides.
Yeah.
So should not be like considered then also like 0 up to the delta?
No. You consider, say, for example, this is the case where under overlap and radial clearance, this particular case. When YV is equal to 0 at the middle condition, everything is balanced. No equivalent flow into the actuator chamber. But slightly when you push to the other side, it is not 0 here because there is a finite flow is there. And the difference between the flow on both sides, that is still positive, that will still feed into the hydraulic chamber. Earlier it was 0 because this totally closed this area. Now there is a positive flow. There is another flow, but this flow will increase. This will decrease because the overlap, that region, the overlapping zone is more. Here overlapping zone is getting small. Okay, so that is why it is having an increase, not 0 as in the pure ideal dead zone. Okay, you can think over it. This because some physical understanding is important. Your question is very relevant. I appreciate you. I hope that you understood my answer. Physically,
Yes, sir.
you think what happens really, that should be correlated.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we have seen the effect of compressibility and on the flow equations. Now I want to add one more element before going further. So far we are considering directly the motion xv of the spool. That spool rod is displaced by mechanical motion xv. But who will produce this motion xv? We cannot push by our hand, Actually, this is a part of an automatic closed loop feedback control loop. And there will be some feedback sensor and command will be there. And there will be some position error. And position error will pass through some compensator. And compensator output will produce some signal. Say, It can be a voltage signal. Normally we process everything as voltages. It can be a signal, voltage signal between plus or minus 10 volt. That control voltage has to be coupled to, or it should be converted into the mechanical motion. For that purpose, definitely we have to use some sort of motor. Now you are talking about hydraulic system, hydraulic motor, but this is a low power case. Definitely the option is we can go for an electric motor. That's called torque motor or force motor. Different types of motors can be there. One benefit here is we need to have to move to a large value. For most of the purpose, the displacement of the spool within the sleeve is limited to plus or minus 0.5 millimeter. That much is sufficient. That's the maximum displacement. With that itself, it will lead to the full flow because of the very large pressure we are applying. Plus or minus 0.5 mm or 1 mm, not more than that. So there can be special construction for electric motor, like it's something called linear force motor will be there, because we are not going for indefinitely large motion. So in between two magnets, some moving iron with coil can be there. It can move. Such different things are there. Another case is we will provide some hydraulic pilot stage to move XV, where the pilot stage is moved by a flapper nozzle mechanism. These terms will be new to you, and because you are avionics students, there is no need to try to learn everything, because you have to learn so many other things. So we will put everything together in a single transfer function. We'll assume that if you inject a current I through some motor coil, it will produce a motion XV with a second order type of dynamics. That's what is written. And now we are talking about YV motion, because YV is the mechanical motion, the XV is the effective hydraulic port opening. In that sense, YV by IVS as a linear system transfer function can be given as KV into a second order dynamics with natural frequency omega V and damping factor theta V. And this omega V is of the order of 50 to 100 hertz, normally used to drive actuation systems of bandwidth 5 to 10 hertz. Because this is a component inside the actuation loop. Actuation loop is having bandwidth normally of the order of 5 hertz or 10 hertz. This being a component, it should have at least one order higher bandwidth than the loop bandwidth. Otherwise, this will produce an additional phase lag into the system, reducing the stability margins. Hence, we use normally 50 to 100 hertz type of bandwidth. So omega V is in radian per second. So you have to multiply by 2 pi. 2 pi into 50 or 2 pi into 100. That's the range. And theta V will be of the order of some 0.5 to 0.7 or even 1, depending on the construction. KV is the scale factor, because we are injecting current and output is displacement. So that unit difference, so much of meter per ampere will be the unit of KV. Understood? Okay. Now we are going into the dynamics of the actuator cylinder in a more, we are idealizing it. In the earlier expression, I was finding the dynamics of forward chamber and return chamber. But if we are operating around null condition and also for small signal, there is a small signal approximation. Instead of considering both chamber dynamics as independent double dynamics, we can lump them together into a single unit. That's what I am going to show. Assuming symmetricity at null displacement. If the actuator piston is at null, that is at xa equals 0, V1 equals V2 is equal to V naught. What I'm telling is this condition, the actuator is at null. That is the piston of the actuator is exactly coinciding with the center of the cylinder, so that the volumes on both the sides are equal. That is equal to half volume of the actuator, which is normally represented by V0. So V1 equals V0, V2 equals V0. And also we assume that zero valve is also symmetrical. So all are the flow, if the same flow is moving, the drop across different ports are equal. Under that condition only, now we are going to reduce the equations. Then we can say that dp1 by dt is equal to minus dp2 by dt. Why? This condition, the ideal condition, I told that because of this Wheaton's bridge or this sort of arrangement, if you have say 200 bar here and 0 bar here, that is supply is 200 bar and reservoir pressure is 0 bar, it will be divided equally while this is passing through this chamber. Finally, there will be 100 bar pressure here and 100 bar pressure here. And here there is a drop of 200 bar to 100 bar. And here there is a drop of 100 bar to 0. So both the drops are equal. Delta PV are equal. Now the flow is 0. System is at null. Now suddenly, if we give a small motion for XV, so there is a small flow entering from PS to forward chamber, and simultaneously there will be a return flow from return chamber to reservoir. Because of this additional flow entering into the forward chamber, the pressure P1 will increase. Say P1 will increase from 100 bar to 105 bar. Because of symmetricity, the pressure earlier here 100 bar will decrease to 95 bar by the same amount 5 bar. So the increase of P1, delta P1 is equivalent opposite to delta P2. That happens in the same time. So you can say that dP1 by dt is equal to minus dP2 by dt. Okay. That is what I have written here. dP1 by dt is equal to minus dP2 by dt. Now PL is equal to P1 minus P2. So dPL by dt equals dP1 by dt minus dP2 by dt. And if you substitute this equation, you will get it is equal to either 2 P1 dot or equal to either minus 2 P2 dot. That is one simplification we are doing. Because of that, QVS is equal to QL plus, earlier we are writing V1 by beta E into P1 dot. That is for our earlier equation. Now that can be replaced by this equation. V0, V1 is replaced by V0. We assume that V1 equals V2 is equal to V0. So V0 by beta E into, instead of P1 dot, we are putting PL dot by 2. Here you see 2 P1 dot is equal to PL dot, or P1 dot is equal to PL dot by 2. One thing I forgot to tell you, beta E is the effective bulk modulus, where beta is the bulk modulus of the fluid. The effectiveness comes because of one term. We are assuming so far that the chamber walls of the sleeve, the actuator chamber walls are infinitely stiff. That is not correct. Under the large pressure changes, definitely there will be expansion contraction for the actuator chamber also, because it's made of steel but finite stiffness. So because of that, if you assume that you are increasing the pressure in the forward chamber, the fluid get compressed, which demands some inward flow, compressibility flow. Along with that, the actuator chamber will expand while you increase the pressure. That expansion also will demand additional inward flow. In that way, you can say that the effective bulk modulus of the fluid is coming down. It becomes more less stiffer. Effective, it is less stiff, more compressible, demands more flow. Beta E will be less than beta, because beta E is in the denominator. You can see that it demands more flow. I hope you understood. Similarly, QVR equals QL minus the same formula. Now you can see that QVS is equal to QVR, because minus and minus will cancel, which is given by QL plus V0 by 2 beta into PL dot. Actually, due to the fluid compressibility, you know that there should be asymmetric flow, because if the fluid is incompressible only, you can say that there is a conservation of fluid. Whatever fluid incoming should be equal to going outside. But if you assume exactly perfect symmetricity and for small motion, whatever fluid get compressed is equal and opposite to the fluid which expands out. So that also you can assume something like a continuity. The inward flow, which is balancing the compression, is equal to the outward flow which balances the expansion. So again, the continuity of the fluid flow, the conservation of the fluid mass entering and going out, that is still valid for this small signal ideal assumption. Thus, we get the compact equation, the QVS equals QVR, we will call it as QV, and is equal to QL plus V0 by 2 beta PL dot. That is what I have written here. And the QV is equated to the valve equation which we derived earlier. There we derived in terms of XV only, some CDW divided by square root of rho into XV into square root of PS minus gamma PL. Now I am changing by introducing the non-linearity between XV and YV also. And whatever CDW by square root of rho, that is represented by KFN, the nonlinear flow gain of the serval multiplied by nonlinear function of YV, where the nonlinear function of YV is represented by the effect of overlap, underlap, and radial clearance, which I have given a exponential relationship. I will give you the MATLAB program for that also. Thus, this equation is complete now. This is the balancing equation. On one side, it represents the flow generator, and the other side, it represents the flow consumption by the load. Here, flow generated from the hydraulic pressure supply through the valve, controlled flow. Any doubts on this? Okay, now we have finished the flow part. Now let us concentrate on the dynamics part, that is the actuator connected to the load direction. Here we are considering the motion of a control surface, because our practical problems either I can take from launch vehicle or from aircraft or from RLV. RLV is also like aircraft only. So this is directly from RLV actuator, RLV Elevon actuator. So the hydraulic actuator is controlling the control surface, the cut section, the side view, cut view of the control surface is given. That means when we actuate, this will move like this or it can move like this. Okay. This is something like a control surface. About an axis. So this can move this way or that way. So this dotted line is the hinge axis of control surface, and we are connecting the actuator to the control surface, and the aerodynamic flow will come here, and because of the deflection of the Elevon control surface, it will produce a aerodynamic moment, control moment on the RLV. And we are connecting the actuator cylinder back to the aircraft or RLV. Let us now look on the force path. Assume the forward motion, say P1 is greater than P2. What does it mean is, because of the fluid pressure, there will be a force, effective force pushing on the piston, and because it is pressure means it will act like this only. And this forward force will get transmitted through this link to the control surface, and that is represented finally by FA, F small a. So F small a is the force, action force acting on the control surface, and control surface is free to move in the inertial frame of reference. Hence the force acting on an inertial body, you can say. You know that when force Fa is there, there is an equal and opposite reaction force should be there to support this activity. And you know that internal to the force generation mechanism, force acts on the control surface, and equal and opposite reaction force act on the other side of the actuator cylinder. And the actuator cylinder is connected to the fuselage of the aircraft or launch vehicle or RLV. Through some links, it is having some stiffness. So definitely, there is an equal and opposite force Fa act in the opposite direction. Finally, because of that, the piston will move forward and the cylinder will move slightly backward because it's not infinitely stiff, isn't it? If the cylinder was not at all connected, then it will simply elongate. But here now it is being connected because of the connection only. Effectively, this is the force generator, and you can, for time being, you can assume that I am replacing the actuator with your own body. Okay? You are standing on this surface, you are standing with your foot on this surface and pushing this control surface with your hand. Can you imagine like that? You are lying down with your foot on this surface and hands on this control surface. And through your body, you are applying force on this control surface When you apply force through your hands on the control surface, the reaction force will be transmitted through your foot to this part. Something is happening. And assume that during this process, this slightly goes backward and this goes forward. Then the net motion, the forward motion XCS, I represent as XCS, and the backward motion of the mounting structure is I represent XB. Both are positive numerically. XB is positive numerically and XCS is positive numerically. Then your body has to elongate, stretch out by an amount of XB plus XCS, sum of two positive quantities. Okay, now you come back to actuator. So I can say that the relative movement of the piston with respect to the cylinder, that is the total elongation of the body. That is X subscript capital A, that is equal to XCS plus XB, where XB is FA divided by KL. FA is the reaction force divided by stiffness, and XCS is nothing but the equivalent linear moment, or delta CS multiplied by the momentum. Hope you understood.
Sir, the XA is the internal movement, right, sir? The rod which is connected inside the cylinder, XA denotes the movement of the rod, right, sir? The internal rod.
See, the rod and this piston head all are rigidly connected. So when I say internal movement means relative movement of the piston head or
Respect to the body.
or rod, both are same. Relative movement of the piston head with respect to the actuator cylinder.
Okay, the rectangular box, we are considering it as the actuator cylinder.
Correct.
Okay, and the rod, that is the calculation that we are telling as XA.
Yeah, XA.
And the XCS is the amount of manual movement that which we are giving to the
Control surface.
Control surface. And XB is the total, due to the manual movement that we are giving, there is some elongation due to the non-rigidity of the connection.
Correct. You are right. That is why I was telling that other example that you can, because everything here, the importance is we should be able to physically feel what is happening. That is very important with respect to control system. So wherever possible, you try to replace everything with your own parts of body. You assume that you are lying down, you are pushing this with your hand, and you are giving the reaction through your foot to this backward. Because of the finite stiffness of the backward elements, there is an extra foot will go backward slightly. And because of the forward movement of the control surface, your hand will move forward. Finally, the distance between your foot and hand, that should be adjusted by the elongation of your body. That is the total internal stretching. That is equivalent to relative movement of the piston with respect to the cylinder.
Okay, so according to us, the XB is like a error term.
XB
is something like an error that we don't want.
Okay. You can interpret like that, because what you're telling is correct, because the larger part is XA and next larger part is XCS. Both are almost equal. And this is a very small quantity due to the finite stiffness of the connecting rods.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that is one part of the story. Now we have to see the force generation part internal to the actuator. the gross force developed inside the actuator is equal to PL, the delta P across the piston head, multiplied by the effective area of the piston head. Effective area is nothing but the area of the piston head minus the area of the spool rod, this connecting rod. That annular area only we have to consider. Okay. And even though I have given us the rod is very small and other is big, but in actual reality, it will not be like that. This rod also will be very thick, and this gap will be a small gap. So the effective area is the effective area which the hydraulic fluid sees. That AP into PL, that is the total force. From that, there is some internal loss. One is due to, because at the source itself, some part of the force is lost, is due to friction only. There are two types of friction. One friction is called viscous damping friction. Now you are expert in friction. Other friction is the Coulomb friction. Stiction we are not considering too much because always there is a fluid film between the annular in the radial clearance gap here. Because of the fluid film, stiction part may not be significant. So both viscous friction and Coulomb friction will be there. That's what I have written. BA into XA dot plus FR into secant function of XA dot, where FR gives the magnitude of the Coulomb friction. Both of these things I have to subtract from the force. This is the total force, gross force developed by the hydraulic actuator, internal to the actuator, minus the force drop across the piston cylinder and between the cylinder and piston, this much. And FA is the force available externally of the actuator to move the control surface, and equal and opposite reaction we have to consider. The same small FA will come here because here already action, reactions, everything is balanced internal. They will be neutralized within the cylinder itself. It will not reflect outside. Whereas this FA is the force which comes out. So it should go out also as a reaction. So same FA acts at both the ends. Now, come to the control surface. In addition to this FA, there is another force acting on the control surface called FD due to aerodynamic forces. This is the aerodynamic system. So while the aircraft is moving forward, because of the drag or various other elements of the aerodynamic interaction with the control surface, there will be force. Let us represent put as FD, and we give the same sign also when we define FD. So FA plus FD will act on the control surface, and you know that FA act at a particular point, but FD is a distributed force. So we have to select a center of pressure, equivalent thing. Here I am the distributed force effect will be equivalently represented with respect to this particular point. And so FA plus FD. So total force, FA plus FD into LM. LM is the lever arm. And finally, you can assume that FD into LM is equal to the total aerodynamic moment acting at the gimbal point. That you can equate. That is the integrate all the dynamic pressure effect on this control surface and get the total force, generate the moment, and that moment equate with FD into LM. So some FD will be there. You don't worry because now we are not going to model FD. Only assume that there is an element FD. That's the final equation, load dynamics. FA plus FD into LM. that is the total force acting on the control surface, is equal to, now the load dynamics, JCS into S square plus BCS into S into delta CS, where JCS is the moment of inertia of the control surface about the hinge point. BCS is the viscous damping coefficient due to some bearing damping, into delta CS is the small deflection about the null point. With delta CS is equal to XCS by LM, that relationship, you know. If it is deflecting by delta CS, radial effect, if you take radius, effective radius as LM, the corresponding tangential motion is given by XCS, such that XCS by LM is equal to delta CS. Reverse motion of actuator cylinder is FA by KL. It's FA by KL. And one more thing, KL is not only in the reverse side, there will be finite stiffness in the forward side also. So whatever compression happening in any of the force chain, that everything will lump together as KL. Because finally, compression happens either in the forward path or return path. The actuator cylinder has to, the differential motion has to accommodate to balance against such all compressions. Hence, there is no problem of lumping all stiffness element together. And finally, what is this point, hatched point? There is no such point there. Truly speaking, we have to trace back up to the center of mass of the aerodynamic vehicle. Till that point, you have to consider all the stiffness path. That is the right approach. So the relative motion of the actuator piston with respect to actuator cylinder is XA, it's XB plus XCS. This is that particular part. Anyway, I am going to show you the total full diagram. These are all explanation for each pieces. And with one more slide, this explanation will be over. Then we'll go to the printed notes so that proper diagrams and proper equations are given. When we do any nonlinear system analysis, the best application is wherever possible use Laplace transform and convert into transfer function diagram, take frequency response, step response, etc. For that purpose, we have to linearize any nonlinear equations when they are coming. Linearization is depending, basically it's the concept of Taylor expansion of nonlinear equation about any operating point. Here, the basic nonlinearity is servo valve. In electromechanical case, nonlinearities are due to friction and saturation. They are the basic things. Saturation is very well present. Otherwise, infinite capability should be there to avoid saturation. So saturation is something which you cannot avoid. But friction, okay, we can avoid to a certain extent. That is also acting. If we reduce the friction, its effect is not significant. But in hydraulic servo valve, there is one element which you cannot avoid. It is not like friction or saturation. They are all understandable thing, but this is the basic control element. And that, since we make use of the orifice flow equation because of its temperature independency, you have to give a cost for the square root nonlinearity of the servo valve. So in order to analyze using normal linear equation, we have to linearize it. So this equation I'm linearizing like delta QV. Here there are two independent variables. One variable is XV, another variable is PL. So we are going to take partial differentiation with respect to both XV and PL and use the first Taylor series term for the linearization. This delta QV equals KQ into delta XV minus KC into delta PL. This minus I am giving deliberately, I will explain. Otherwise, you have to put only KC. Where KQ is the partial derivative of QV with respect to XV. That is dou QV by dou XV about an operating point XV0, PL0. If you differentiate, you will get, here it is actually linear relationship. So KFN into square root of PS minus PL0. Here I have removed this magnitude because PL0 is a given value and that is an operating point that will be well within the acceptable range so that there is no problem. And also we assume that here XV is greater than 0 because for a given XV0, so gamma is sine of XV. That is all. So if this is XV greater than 0 and PS minus P greater than 0, this equation is valid. And Kc equals partial derivative of QV with respect to PL. But I deliberately give a negative sign here because this negative sign will cancel with this negative sign. This sign is given to make Kc as a numerically positive quantity. If you differentiate, what will happen? This is in underscore root. So KFN XV divided by 2 square root of PS minus PL0. And then PL, and we have to differentiate with respect to PL. One negative sign will come, isn't it? That negative sign is now absorbed because of this negative sign. That's why it is coming as positive. If you are simply taking partial derivative QE with respect to PL, you could have got minus KFN XV0 by 2 square root of PS minus PL0. So these are the equivalent linearization, and these coefficients we are providing, and then we proceed with the linear equation. Now there is no nonlinearity here. I will show you how we are going to use it in the block diagram. Any doubts so far? Then otherwise I will move to the block diagram. Okay. In addition to this, I'm going to supply another detailed writer. It's a nonlinear model simulation of an aircraft telephone surface actuation. First one is the functional model of the actuation system. So in any mathematical modeling, it is a three-stage approach. The first step is you have to make a functional model. Functional model means any system is actually a collection of multiple subsystems. Each subsystem is having a particular function. Such functional subsystems are represented by different blocks, and how the physical sequence of connection that we have to show in a beautiful diagram. This is how, if you are asking me to explain how a hydraulic actuator works, whatever I was telling so far are different parts separately, their functions, but putting them together, how they will work as a single system is shown by this diagram. Because next to this, I will replace each of the functional blocks by its detailed mathematical model, and you will get, these are all separate blocks, and finally you will get more elaborate diagrams. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to such diagrams. So let me first explain with respect to this. I told when we discuss about the servo valve, there is a hydraulics power supply unit is there, and that is connected to the servo valve. And servo valve outlet is connected to reservoir, PS and PR. In addition to that, the external influence from the mechanical dynamics is through PL. You can look into this diagram. This is the servo valve. What are the external signal connected? PS, PR and PL. The entire mechanical effects are reflected to the hydraulic system through the delta P across this. So servo valve, if you want to model, we should have PS, PR and PL as the signals. That is what is given here. PS, PR portion and PL. And servo valve is driven by a servo amplifier, I told you. And there is a servo compensator, actuator command, actuator feedback. There will be error pass through, compensator like PI controller or lag lead compensator. Then we get some voltage. That voltage is to be converted into an equivalent current to drive the coils. That current will be given into servo valve. So servo valve does the remaining job. Finally, servo valve will give a flow to the hydraulic actuator cylinder. That's the output of servo valve. That is this QVS is equal to QVR is equal to QV Pitot. QV is the output of the servo valve that is connected to the actuator cylinder. So this comes to the actuator cylinder. Now, if you see the output of actuator cylinder, you have two things. One is XA, the total elongation, differential motion of the cylinder and piston, XA. That's the output of the actuator cylinder, isn't it? If you consider the relative displacement of the piston head with respect to the cylinder. Action is nothing but the force. The effect of that action is displacement. That only we are showing. So truly speaking, I should have given here force as the output and capture XA as the effect. But here I am going in an inverse way. I assume that there is a force. Because of the force, there is an effect of XA. I will compute back what is force. Assuming that there is an effect of XAX, capital A suffix, and assuming that there is a control surface deflection forward, then the differential thing is X. Here I am representing X as there is X structure, same as XB that we explained. XCS is the control surface movement. XA is the total motion. So XA is equal to XCS forward plus XS backward, XB or XS. Both are same because it's drawn another time. So XS is the difference. That is the equivalent structural deflection, same as XB that we were explaining. That multiplied by actuator mounting bracket stiffness gives FA. Now we are considering only that mounting bracket point that is having a deflection of XS. Definitely the force transmitted through the mounting bracket should be the product of XS and FA. And here actually with respect to my previous, it was FO small a. Okay, that difference is there. We'll come to the other diagram also, then we'll see. Sure. That FA act on the piston cross section, and this is a global diagram. I'm not showing all the full details. That is why the notation is not FA, because there is a difference between F capital A and F small a is due to the internal loss. I am not explicitly shown here the internal loss. That's what because in the functional diagram, all details may not be there. So FA is the total actuator force developed internal to the actuator, that is PL into AP. Then piston cross section, that is FA by piston cross section is equal to PL. So I have got back the action. PL is the action. Something like the actuator, the force equivalent thing is PL and the effect is XI, but we tap the effect and computed back the real forcing function PL. Now the same FA along with the aero load, that is FD, act on the control surface, produce delta CS, and the delta CS multiplied by moment gives XCS. Then actuator control point of view, XA is the one which is sensed by the internal position sensor of the actuator. There is actuator unit, this actual unit as such is controlled locally by the actuation control loop. That's what we are studying now. For that purpose, we have to sense the relative moment of the actuator piston with the cylinder. That is done by a position sensor like LVDT or potentiometer. Any position sensor should have two parts. One is the reference end and another is moving end. So the reference end of the LVDT is connected to the actuator cylinder and moving end is connected to the piston, so that it will measure the differential motion. That is one which is getting fed back, actuator position feedback. Thus the loop is complete. And we use some position sensor dynamics. The dynamics is nothing but the dynamics of the filter used for processing the output. Otherwise, the sensor need not have any dynamics. So sensor dynamics is basically due to the processing electronics filter dynamics. For example, if you are using LVDT, linear variable differential transformer. You have studied LVDT by any chance?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So LVDT, the problem is it is having an excitation frequency. We have to remove that excitation frequency, and we have to, and some carrier is actually modulated by the mechanical motion. So we have to filter out the excitation frequency component. For that purpose, we use something called phase sensitive demodulator. And the phase sensitive demodulator will have frequency content of twice the carrier frequency that we have to remove. For that purpose, we have to use a low-pass filter. And that low-pass filter dynamics we have to put in the feedback path. You have studied GSHS. The HS is nothing but here the filter dynamics of the demodulator. Any doubt on this diagram?
So can you give it an aircraft analogy for this diagram? Like,
yeah, aircraft here. Aircraft means this is the control surface.
so that one, if you can.
This is the equivalent thing. This is aircraft control surface.
Sir, so the actuator command will be something that is given by the pilot.
Okay, I say it is not exactly like that. There are one more loop is there. Say pilot will not directly give actuator command. there are two loops. One is called autopilot loop, and there are actually three loops are there. One is guidance loop, another is autopilot loop, and another is the actuator loop. Normally, the pilot fellow, he will only try to correct the deviation of the trajectory through which the aircraft has to move, heading direction change. As an overall vehicle, how I had to change the heading direction, nose up or nose down. Such things only aircraft that fellow will control. Now the overall, if you want to change the attitude of the aircraft, pitch up, pitch down, your left, your right, or roll clockwise or roll counterclockwise, that action has to be converted into the equivalent control surface, because there are so many control surfaces are there. Aileron is there, rudder is there. You have to rightly apportion. That the pilot cannot decide. That is done by the internal control loop. Some digital autopilot loop will be there. Okay. That digital autopilot loop will generate the equivalent command to each of the control surface. That command only will come to the actuator loop. So pilot is not directly giving command to actuator loop. It gives only command to an autopilot, and autopilot will convert the required attitude correction command to the actuators. I hope you understood.
Okay, sir. So if you take an aircraft, the total functional diagram, say, for example, if I am controlling the rudder, the total functional diagram that you are given will be located at the rudder area. It
Yeah,
won't have any direct connection.
rudder or aileron, wherever it is.
So it is the total functional diagram of a particular control surface at a given area. Like it is
Correct.
located at the
Correct. You're right.
So after that, we'll have many loops, and only after that, we'll have the manual control.
Yeah. So after manual, digital autopilot loop will be there. So pilot is actually sitting in the place of something called guidance controller, guidance control, you can say. In actual launch vehicle, there are explicitly three loops are there. One is guidance and navigation loop. Then it is autopilot loop, then actuator loop. In the actual aircraft, the pilot will take the role of guidance loop. Then there will be an autopilot loop. Then there is an actuator loop.
Okay, sir.
Understood?
Okay, sir.
Sure. And one more thing, the overlap, underlap, radial clearance, I was explaining, and I was showing the comparison with respect to critical lapping. And here, critical lapping and overlapped case only I have shown here. You can see this first straight line is critical lap, and that is something like 45 degrees slope, but spool displacement and orifice opening. Spool displacement is here XV and XV dash is put. So you take this is YV and this is the XV, because this diagram is taken from one of our launch vehicle taxi report. So I could not change the symbols. The spool displacement is a mechanical displacement. That is nothing but our YV, and orifice opening. There is effective hydraulic displacement, XV. You can correct it accordingly. I will put it, this is YV and this is the XV. And this is plotted for different values. And I have given the MATLAB program also for that. I can show you. Then what you have to do in your lab is shown here. What that Mr. Abhilash will explain that subsequently. So this is diagram part of that. Already the theory portions. Okay, before going into that, I will come to that other portions also. The nonlinear mathematical model. I initially explained the functional block diagram. The next step is each individual functional blocks we have to mathematically model. Then convert the functional block by the equivalent detailed nonlinear mathematical model. Can you see this diagram clearly?
Yes.
So this is a command. There is a command coming from autopilot to deflect a control surface. And that I expressed in terms of the equivalent voltage. You can also express it as a radian also. Because the sensor scale factor is given the feedback path. Delta A is the equivalent of XA. We assume the same lever arm length because here everything is interpreted as deflection. So relationship between the translational motion and deflection is always given by the lever arm or momentum of the control surface. Same LM is used. XA divided by LM is the, if you interpret the elongation of the actuator, there is a relative moment of the piston with respect to cylinder as an equivalent deflection reflected at the control surface. So you divide by LM, you will get delta I. Then the normal sensor, the dynamics is the sensor dynamics. Then Kp is the scale factor. Now when you generate the command here, you normally require deflection command in radian that multiply that deflection command by the same Kp to get the equivalent voltage command. So that you can take both this Kp from the forward path and the reaction path, the feedback path together into the forward path. And here we can directly give deltas C as command and delta A as the feedback, or delta F as the feedback, because we have to take a demodulator always only in the denominator. Then there is some current limit, because wherever we attach some power amplifier, there is a maximum. Here is 10 milliampere or 1 milliampere. Okay, it's written there. I think it's a 1 milliampere plus or minus 1 milliampere is the maximum current. Then servo valve dynamics, the second order dynamics. Then comes N of YV, converting YV to XV. This is the servo valve flow equation. Only thing you have to see, you are getting all the variables as input. Here PL is one variable, XV is another variable. XV is coming from here and PL is the feedback. And output is QV, servo valve. From QV, we subtract the compressibility flow to get the load flow, because already we wrote the equation QV is equal to QL plus V naught by 2 beta E into PL dot. You remember that equation. So we are effectively subtracting the compressibility flow from the total flow to get the load flow. Once we get load flow, divide by AP to get the relative velocity of the piston with respect to cylinder, XA dot. Once you have XA dot, integrate it to get XI, then apply stroke limit, because there is a maximum travel for the related displacement of piston with the cylinder. Then you will get XA. That XA is sensed by then divided by Lm delta A sensed and fed back. And Xa minus Xes, the forward motion of the control surface, you'll get the incremental motion of the mounting structure, mounting bracket, that multiplied by stiffness will give F. Here you can say F small a only. That is the force which is coming out. That small a you add with the internal losses BA to get F capital A. In the functional diagram I have given F capital A. Now there I didn't consider the internal loss. So if you consider internal loss along with BA effect, you can add the friction force also here. That is FR signum function of X naught also you can add here to get the total FA. Then FA by AP is the PL. Then again from PL we have 2 points. One is PL directly goes to zero. Another is rate of change of PL. That is PL into S. S is the Laplace operator. It is a representation for differentiation operation. So PL dot into V naught by 2 beta is the compressibility flow that we subtract. Now you see the loop is closed. Isn't it? Now if you start it, it will simply evolve to produce to mimic the actuator dynamics. Okay, you like this diagram?
So previous diagram was good.
Any problem in understanding this?
No, sir.
And I want to highlight some features of this. Suppose you are disconnecting the external load and only you are having an actuator. You are placing the actuator on your tabletop simply. Then its mathematical model is obtained by simply cut off this point and cut off this point. The connection, mechanical connection from the actuator to the load is through this. And the feedback connection from the load to the actuator is through this FA. So no force is transmitted to the external load. So FA is equal to 0, nothing comes back. And no pushing is given to the actuator. Neither control surface is not moving and also no mounting bracket motion is there. So you can easily, you can say this is actuator level, simply actuator level or no load condition. We are not connecting any load. So the same simulation model can be used for actuator alone case or connected with the load by simply breaking this loop. And the internal parts are still. There is one feature. Another feature, there is a problem with the simulation. Have you heard of algebraic loop in simulation? No. If you simply simulate, okay, now the recent version of Simulink, etc., it will automatically take care. But if you write a MATLAB code program, it will not work because of the algebraic loop here. The algebraic loop means for any simulation, simulation means it is a sequential way of processing. For example, if you want to simulate this you will write a MATLAB program. It will demand the inputs XV and PL. Okay, then you write a code for PL. Okay, PL is equal to. But when you write expression for PL, it will ask what is QV. Now, when you write equation for QV, it will ask PL. There is a clash because we are writing programs sequentially. This can be resolved only if we put some sort of delay elements. That's the way we break the actuator algebraic loop. Here it is something even more than that. Say, consider time being you discard this portion. You consider only this portion. There is an algebraic loop here. See, QV is coming multiplied by 1 by AP, then multiplied by BA, then divided by AP, and coming back here. And this is a static relationship. There is no dynamics. So which we have to solve first? You cannot write equation like this. If you write QV expression, then it will ask for PL. Then if you write PL expression after QV, it's a problem because PL requires QV requires PL. I hope you understood this. The simplest case is, say, if you want to simulate a very simple expression, I will put a gain of 5 here. Take the output. I'll put a gain of 2 and feed it back. This is the input U, this is the output Y, this is the feedbacks signal, say F, this is the error. Can you simulate this? Can you simulate this? Yes or no?
So with normal block diagram, we can simulate by giving an input. So I think it's a single loop, so I think we can do it.
Do it is not the question. Whether it's simulate or not is my question. You can, now you all know, you can write algebraically, you can solve it, isn't it? You will say that y is equal to 5 into E is equal to U minus 2 into Y. So finally you will get Y divided by U is equal to 5 divided by 1 plus 5 into 2, G by 1 plus GH. That is algebraic solution. Okay. That is the exact solution, it's algebraic. But simulation means sequential way of writing. Then I will write, instead of U, I will say at a time index, I will fix U of K. I will write E of K, okay. And I will write Y of K here. And F of K. Then how you will write now? You will say that E of K is equal to U of K minus F of K. Okay, good, no problem. Then F of K is equal to 2 into Y of K. Also no problem. Where is Y of K? Y of K is equal to 5 into E of K. Finally, E of K is not available. So there is one problem. Finally, it will loop around. There is something like the chicken egg problem, chicken or egg, which has come first. The same equation problem will come. It's called algebraic loop. You understood what I'm telling?
Give the initial condition like that, or
initial, there is nothing called initial condition here. It's a totally static loop. When there is a dynamics only, you will say state is there, state is having initial condition and all. If you just write in MATLAB and see that now you are an expert in MATLAB, you see that you can simulate it. You cannot simulate it because of this. One of the variable is unknown. Okay. For that purpose only, we will introduce a delay. That is this called algebraic loop. We'll break the algebraic loop. Say you might have seen in some traffic junctions, the same problem will be there. In four multiple roads are joining together. Sometimes these buses, they form a algebraic loop. See, unless the one bus moves, the other cannot move. Unless the other moves, the other can, like that. They'll be, finally the traffic police should come and break the loop and do something to assign certain priority. Otherwise it will not work. So that is an issue. So you cannot normally solve such case unless we break the algebraic loop. That is done deliberately by introducing additional delay elements. And for that explanation only, I am giving you another this. I will give you one more just one. The Simulink model, this is the equivalent Simulink model. There we deliberately introduce another second order dynamic filter. This is their FA path, this is the BA path. In order to break it, we introduce a filter, extra double lag, so that the algebraic loop can be removed. This is the simulation of a second order dynamic filter. I hope you can understand this. Two integrators, and this is the input side, this is the output side. What I have simulated is this is the output. Sorry. Omega 1 square is minus . So this is the input, this is the output, and forward path is 1 by s, 1 by s. This is equivalent to a second order dynamic filter with a natural frequency of omega 1 and damping factor theta 1. You have studied by this time signal flow graph?
Yes, sir, in the control system course.
Control system. Same thing only I had drawn. You just find the transfer function of this. You will get this is equivalent to omega 1 square divided by s square plus 2 theta 1 omega 1s plus omega 1 square. This is the transfer function. So what we do is, in series with that hydraulic portion, we introduce a simple filter, and this filter is having a very large bandwidth of the order of some 150 hertz, so that it will not interfere with the rest of the dynamics. Then we take the output from this, and this particular action will introduce a double lag here or single lag here. And this can be tapped as the derivative part, and this can be tapped as the actual PL path. So PL, a new PL we are deriving here, this is the PL dot. Actually, these PL and PL dot are passed through a second order dynamics filter to remove this algebraic loop problem. So this is that concept. Otherwise, I have explained everything. You can go through this diagram. All these materials will be given to you, and Mr. Abhilash will be explaining. And one more thing, the orifice flow, whatever equation that is going to be simulated as an embedded MATLAB block, that program also will be given by Abhilash. And finally, there is a linear block also. This is the explanation of nonlinear block. And there is a corresponding linear block also is there. I will show that also. The very purpose of linearizing is this: we have removed the nonlinear part of the servo valve with the Kc and Kq coefficients. Otherwise, structure remains same. Variables are also same. Only the servo valve portion is replaced here. And we are defining various transfer function. This is the input V reference, V command, V feedback, V the compensator, and the servo valve K, KV, all these portions are there, which are the equivalent transfer functions of driving element. And we write one open loop transfer function of the plant like this. That is the effective servo valve output. This is Ka into Kp, Kq, omega n square. So it's a net, you can say something like servo valve flow. Then, because that equation of that contains Kq into delta XV minus Kc into delta P, the PL. That was the expression, the linearization. That portion only is used, and finally QV we are getting. Here, this is the same as delta QV, the linearized version. And delta QV has two portions. One is KQ into delta XV portion. That is this out. KQ, in KQ you can see directly here KQ. And the remaining elements, Ka, Kv, omega V square A square plus 2 zeta omega V into this input will give the XV portion. So XV into KQ, that minus KC into PL, provide PL, sorry, QV. The QV minus QC is QL, is following. And here I am not using that algebraic loop breaking provision, because this can be directly solved as a transfer function approach. We can make it. And if you want to simulate using Simulink, again you can put the equivalent filters also. Delay elements. So this is the equivalent linear system dynamics. Why we use the linear system equivalent is to design for the compensator, because we have to find out all the transfer function elements, and I will show you the structure of the compensator. This is the linear mathematical model I have discussed that time. Delta Q is KQ into delta YV minus. the same thing is put. And servo analysis and design, the open loop plant transfer function will have multiple paths. One is the servo amplifier gain portion, then spool valve dynamics, then LVDT and demodulator, and this is the total hydraulic actuator part, GP. So that only I was showing in the linear model. Other parts are separate. And finally, when you analyze, substitute the values, you will get such a transfer function. So you can recreate this transfer function by substituting various elements and giving it as a table. All the element values are given. This full table is there. Substitute the values and write the program, you will get this transfer function back. And we are giving a compensator, and explanation for different compensator elements are also given. It's a PI control with a roll-off filter and notch. And notch is used to compensate for a hydraulic resonance. Yesterday I was telling some resonance between the hydraulic stiffness and mechanical element stiffness and the inertia of the control surface. Around 36 Hertz it is there. That is cancelled approximately by notch filter. I hope you have studied notch filter in your signal processing and all. The same thing is put and the values are all given. PI control is to that gives them adequate steady state static characteristics. This is the roll-off filter and this is the gain. The remaining portion you can just understand it, and already everything is given. You can go through it and learn it. So in case of any doubt, you first go through the entire thing. After going through that, if you have any remaining doubt, I can have one more class. That is not a problem. Otherwise, you can start doing it. Okay, any doubts on this so far?
No, sir, but the blocks are very big to implement.
Blocks are very big.
To implement lots of connections and
connection. Okay, say that's why we are giving you, say we are not asking you to derive. There are two cases. One, giving the problem and asking you to develop. Another is we are giving you the blocks, asking you to redo it and understand it. And also it is a training for you to, this is actually a case study. This is something like we are following the cases in some foreign labs. Foreign universities, they normally give labs as case studies. This is a realistic case study. If you do it, say not only you, all the previous batches have done it. There's no problem. So you can do it, and all the helps will be given by a tutor, technical assistants, and as well as myself. We are all there. You read it, understand it, and after this understanding, you will gain lot of knowledge in simulating realistic system. First of all, last of all, it is only some fourth order dynamics, not more than that. The normal practical systems are very complex. So this will give you an experience to understand systems. Okay.
fine, sir.
Yeah. Once you go through that, this problem will be solved because we are giving you all the material. It's not something like material is not given. So what we want you to do is you have to understand it fully. Once you understand, then everything looks simple. Any conceptual problem of understanding, we are always there. You can ask me, I can explain to any extent. Why I'm telling is the entire thing I only developed, and now it is being used not only in ISRO, it is used in DRDO for our light combat aircraft simulation. Also use the same thing only. The same concept is used to develop the Elavon and radar actual systems of LC at Aegis. I only did it. So the entire thing is practically working system used in DRDO and ISRO. So wherever you go, this will give a direct experience and you will not have any problem in handling any of the complex problems. Okay. So take it in a positive spirit, understand it and learn it. Any doubts, we'll come back, we'll answer. Okay. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.